Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learning. I'm delighted to be joined today by Michael Sears. Michael Sears is the MD of Sealeys Walker Jarvis. Thank you so much for joining me, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And good afternoon to you, Stephen, and obviously everyone that's tuning in.
Lovely, thank you. So, been in property for a little bit. How did you get started?
I worked a long, long time ago in the Docklands in London when it was before it really kicked off. Before the Daily Mail went there, before the Jubilee Line extension went there, I was in agency virtually not on Canary Wharf, on Marsh Wall it was. And it was a real good apprenticeship because you were trying to get stuff moving on the market that had stalled. The developer had gone into receivership, and this was before it sort of relaunched and started getting going again. So it's a real tough time, but a fantastic time to cut your teeth in agency.
So, what you said as an apprentice or apprenticeship, what were the lessons that you learned from there?
I think it was a fantastic grounding in terms of, if you imagine back then, a lot of the facades had gone up, but nothing was built out, or very few built out, and the market had changed considerably as well. So it was a depressed market, confidence was low, and there was lots of challenges. That was on the residential side back then. Obviously, I deal with much more nowadays, but that was where I cut my teeth on residential. What did I learn? Gosh, all the things you learn when it's a hard market as an agent, which is, making sure you've got to work harder for your fee and to get stuff let or sold or whatever it might be. And yeah, no, that's why I call it. That was very much my apprenticeship and where I probably learned most in a short space of time.
So, for people watching this who may have not gone through a challenging market, and
Absolutely, yeah,
like you and I, we've been through quite a few over the years,
yeah.
what advice would you give to people after having been through that?
I think we're coming up to the point where renters' rights is going to hit on the 1st of May, and that will affect letting agents and sales agents and commercial agents. Sorry, not so much commercial. Well, it will if you've got mixed use. I suppose it will affect that, and also on the auction side. So it's going to affect everything. That's one legislative change, and then obviously with Propertymark, they're very much lobbying on the side of the home buyers and sellers consultation with government. And after 32 years or 33 years or whatever it is in the business, the one constant is change. Things are always changing. And I think if you've got the mindset that you're looking at every single change as a challenge as opposed to an issue, that then means that you're looking at it in the right way. You're working out what you're going to do and how you can benefit your business by being ahead of the game.
Okay, that's great, and that's great advice. I love the mindset. Looking at
Yeah,
it a different way. Um, if people struggle with their mindset,
yeah.
how can they change their language, so to speak, rather than looking at it as an issue, look at it as a challenge and the opportunities that present.
I think there are two things I would say to that in answer to that question, Stephen. And the first thing is knowledge equals confidence equals luck. That's what I always tell my sales team and the teams in commercial and lettings and auctions. Knowledge equals confidence equals luck. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that the more knowledge you have, the more confident you have. And that comes across when you're dealing with any sort of client, whether it's on the phone, person to person, or whatever. That really comes across. And so to be the better professional and to be more confident in what it is you're doing and also all the changes that happen, that learning is important. Whether it's through something like Propertymark, where you do your technical awards and learn the background in law and the basis of law on which we all operate, that's a huge advantage. Confidence equals, knowledge equals confidence equals luck. So the more confident you are, you find that the better you are at dealing with people because of that knowledge, things start to land in your lap and your life becomes so much easier. That's the first answer. Second answer is, on the business level, if you're a business owner or you're involved, in the management of the business itself, all of us were taught, perhaps to be an estate agent, a letting agent, or whatever it might be, but very few of us were taught to run a business. And it's those business lessons about working on your business, not in it, which are crucial to learn as well. Because when you start to do that, you take a holistic view of anything, any change, and it does change that mindset for you personally as well. And it's self-development.
Okay. Cool. You covered a lot there. Great answer. Thank you.
I know, yeah.
So if I'm just starting in the industry, and in fact, you called it a profession. If I'm just
Yeah.
starting in a
It's a
profession,
mindset, it's a profession, Stephen.
yeah,
It's a
no,
profession.
you're right, and I agree with you. Um, Apart from Propertymark, which we will come back and touch on,
Yeah,
where there's loads of great resources,
yeah.
where do I build up my knowledge from?
So it depends if you're looking at the estate agency or you're looking at the business. If you're looking at the business, I think it's important to take yourself at some stage outside of your business, if it is your business, or even at a management level. It's good to be working on your business, not in it as such. How do you do that? Lots of resources. Business books or audio books are a good resource. A key thing, I think I belong to two groups. One's Propertymark Inspire. So I'm meeting every 2 months face to face, 12 other estate agents across the country. We're not in each other's areas and we lay all of our problems on the table. It's a therapy session for us. And guess what? Everyone else has had that experience and they solve it for us. So that's one way of networking with fellow professionals. If you can get into that, that's good. But also, I used to belong to a thing called Entrepreneur Circle, which is very much about marketing. They're based in Birmingham, but they're nationwide. At the point at which I make a conscious decision that I'm going to work on my business and set aside time to do that, I joined something like Entrepreneur Circle, or it might be a mastermind group or something along those lines. It's about personal development, about so many businesses experience the same. There's so many lessons out there. You've got to take yourself almost outside of the agency world to learn about it from the exterior, and then apply that to your business. I've got my book out, The Estate Agent Who Was Loved. Lots of things that I've learned over the years in that, and it's about marketing is all about being different and being noticed. And the more you can do that, the better it is.
Okay, I'm going to come onto your book as well. A lot to unpack. I just want to add something or piggyback on something you just said there.
Yeah,
When I was at Green and Co, I went to a business group called Vistage,
yeah,
or Tech, and again, as Lee rightly said, there was 15, 16 people round the table,
yeah,
non-competing.
yeah,
In fact, they were all different businesses, so not even estate agents. It was the best thing I've ever done. It
yeah.
got me out of my comfort zone. It made me look at I used to come back and drive my MD mad. He knew where I was every month because I had idea after idea after idea. He goes, I know where you've just been. You've been to Vistage. You met your group. I said, yes. And spot on. But it is life changing. And, mastermind groups, I've got a couple of mastermind groups as well.
Yeah.
And, what people find reassuring is that it's not just you. It's very lonely being in business. But actually, when you're meeting with like-minded, non-competing people who want to collaborate, people who want to share, people want to help each other.
And they want to do it. They're
Yeah,
so giving, aren't they? In these sort of mastermind groups, it's like a challenge to you. Mike, I've got this problem. Oh, great! I'll solve it for you. So it's very much like that, and very
yeah,
positive. And you go away feeling 10 foot tall, each time.
100%. So you mentioned the word profession and professional.
Yes,
Um, Estate agents have got a bad name.
yes,
Um,
and that's the challenge. So there you go. We're talking about challenges, and that's the challenge to overcome that. Which
Okay. So you've answered my or asked my next question for me. How do estate agents overcome that huge challenge of public perception?
the key thing is you're never going to overcome that individually yourself in terms of the public perception other than your client's perception of you. And that's what you've got to concentrate on because that's what you're dealing with. And it's all about communication, great communication with your clients. It's also about giving value. That if you're going to build a business, the key thing is that if you do that without giving value, it's not sustainable because you're going to lose your clients. And so you're always going to be looking for more and more clients. I can add up so many times where a new agent's come into my town, for example, and said, right, we're going to wipe the floor with absolutely everyone because we're going to be the new kids on the block and everything else. And they do it by cutting their fees and being the cheapest out there. Well, you know that's only going to last for so long, because ultimately, if you're not charging your fees in a, you know, you're worth it, and if you're not charging what you're worth, at some point you're not going to be giving the value that you need to give to your clients. So you're going to lose client by client, and eventually you're going to run out of clients. And that's what happens with companies that do that fee war, for example. So that's an example of something that, you know, that's not sustainable. If you're not giving value to your client, it's not sustainable. So if you're going to build a business, you need to make sure you're adding in that value. And again, comes down to knowledge, what you're putting into it. So the better the knowledge and the better advice you can give, therefore, the better it is for your client.
Lovely. Apart from knowledge, what does value look like to you? Can you give me some examples of adding value and being different and standing out?
Gosh, that's a big question, because part of that standing out is very much about the marketing to capture new clients, I guess. But you know, what does the value look like in the day to day of the business? It's just, I think the key point in the first part, I'll answer that question, is that knowledge example. I'll give you an example. I had an old car showroom with some offices in it that an agent had gone along to and said this is worth £35,000 a year, let's say, on rental and everything else. I went in, and we're quite well spread on commercial, but our knowledge is great. And I went in there and said, split the offices up, start letting the offices out separately. He had a couple of shops that he could deal with underneath. We put a gym in one of them. In the end, we ended up earning him rental-wise 85,000 a year. That's knowledge. And so that demonstration of knowledge, and that's an extreme example, admittedly, but you know, that client is going to be my client forever and a day for that very reason, that your knowledge has led him down the right path.
Yeah, and you've got a raving fan. I'm sure he's got other friends, family, colleagues, and neighbours that
Yeah,
are also in commercial that he will
yeah.
now mention every time that Michael is a go-to person.
And it's that trust thing, isn't it? So, you know, estate agents are reviled, but to be revered as an estate agent, that's the sort of thing you need to be doing.
Love that. Thank you. Something I want to come back to that you touched on earlier. You talked about the home buyers and sellers, and
Yeah,
in my humble opinion, the process have gone backwards in the last 30 odd years.
yeah, it certainly has. Yeah,
I think it was easier to buy and sell a property. It wasn't taking as many days as it takes now to exchange and complete. And I know there's a lot going on behind the scenes. You know,
there is.
Kate Faulkner's doing an incredible job,
Yeah,
and as are many others.
yeah.
But what can be done today to speed up the process? You know, rather than let's keep on talking about it. I know people were talking about get all the upfront information that's going to make a difference. Do this, do that. But we're in a digital world now. Surely things should be happening a lot quicker than they are now.
Absolutely. That is the game changer in a sense. But even on leasing, you know, it's not just sales conveyancing. As a commercial agent, it used to take me a month from the time that I tied something up, you know, with detailed heads of terms on a commercial lease. It took a month for the solicitor to draw it up. Now it's about 3. My pipeline on residential sales converts 3 times a year. It used to be 4. So absolutely, it's got worse. What can be done about it? There's certain things that nationally can be done, you know, so Propertymark, lobbying government, and then there's certain things that you can do as an individual agency right now, irrespective of, you know, the next 2 years of the home buying selling process, where Propertymark's talking to government and everything else. There are things you can do. So on the national side of things, yeah, absolutely, you're right in terms of the digitalization of property, but also the bringing together of different agencies so that you're only doing recognise AML check, for example, as opposed to, however many that client needs to do, which is time and consuming. And time is money in certainly in leasing or letting. So the digitalisation and the joining up of the many agencies. I remember I was a home inspector and I did home information packs when they first came out a few years, what was it, 15 years ago, something like that. And the problem was the council mortgage lenders didn't accept them. So that's disjointed. And that's something that most of all on a national level, that needs to be overcome. The fact that we need to have a recognisable format that everyone buys into to make life easier. So it's not just digitalisation, it's thinking about bringing all the parties involved together. That's solicitors, lenders, agents, buyers, sellers. A lot of different parties there to bring together. On a business level, what can you do today? We work hard. We've got this policy of keeping it local. We get to know the solicitors in their town. I prefer to use the solicitors in their town. We don't take referral fees, very unusually. But what we do is get a lot of work back from solicitors like probate and things like that, because we don't take referral fees, but we keep reminding them we don't take referral fees, unlike everyone else. So that's a KPI for us, but we get the probate, or we ask for it and keep asking for it, and always ask for the order. If you don't ask, you don't get. So you've got to keep doing that. But get to know your solicitors and tell them what your issues are. I go out with 3 solicitors in our town. I go out to lunch with them twice a year, each of them. And that's probably why I need to lose a bit of weight. But that's another story, because I lunch too often. But it's about when you're talking to a solicitor and you're building that rapport, so that when your agency picks the phone up to them, they're more likely to help you and get it through and put your case to the top of their pile. In our country, funny enough, I had a National Association of Estate Agents call this morning with guys from across the country, and we're all saying that actually things are going through a bit quicker with the solicitors. But that's probably because their caseload is a bit lower than normal. Certainly in the southeast, not necessarily the case in other parts of the country. But yeah, so on a personal level or on a business level, get to know your solicitors, work closely with them, let them know what your pinch points are, and let them give you the answer and overcome them for you. If they understand what your issues are, they're more likely going to solve them alongside you.
Okay, lovely. Something I want to come back to, if that's okay. You talked about the Renters' Right Act
Yeah,
coming in on the 1st of May, and I know the information came out from the government, I think, last Friday.
it did. Yeah.
What tips would you give to agents how they should be educating their landlords and also their tenants about what is happening? Because it's not long now.
It's not long now, absolutely. And I think, the first thing is that you should be the reassuring voice of the agent to your clients and all of your clients. And you should be messaging. If you're not, potentially you're going to lose a client or lose clients because they're going to be nervous. The first things first is that every agent, I'll give you an example of what my agency has done on our letting side and property management side of property managers. We've embraced absolutely every bit of information that's out there. So whether it's a webinar from Rightmove, whether it's a webinar from Propertymark, we don't just go on the Propertymark courses for the update on renters' rights. We also use other outside agencies that are delivering them as well, because we want that oversight of absolutely everything. And when each of my key members of staff has sat down 4 or 5 times through webinars and things like that, they know it back to front, inside out. That's, I think, a first. You've got to invest in that knowledge. And it's coming back to the theme, I think, of today, isn't it? It's knowledge. But it's
Knowledge,
about
confidence,
investing in your staff's knowledge. But then you've got to communicate to your clients and also get things out there generally to say the Renters' Rights Bill is a challenge, but it's a challenge that we will overcome and we'll turn it into a positive. I don't see too many issues with the Renters' Rights Bill per se. What I do see issues with is landlords exiting market, lack of supply. That's the bigger problem. I don't see that the legislative change, and we've had them through the years, so we see one after the other. It's just water off a duck's back for guys like you, Stephen, and me that have been around long enough. It's just a challenge, just something you need to turn into a positive and get on with it. And it's very much that. So I think the question was, remind me of the question, Stephen, because I've rambled again. Sorry.
Is what can one or what can agents be doing to educate landlords and tenants about the changes, what's happening on the 1st of May, what landlords need to do to serve this booklet um, out to people.
I think the key thing on all of that is coming back to the communication with your client, and you need to communicate. And that depends on your client base. As is quite large. So what I've done is we've got podcasts like yourselves, Stephen, that have gone out there, but we've also done videos to clients. So it's me as MD of my company going out there and basically not giving them the ins and outs of what it means with pets in properties and all of these sort of things, but you're just touching on what the various pinch points are of that legislation and just telling them that as an agent, we're fully aware of that. And I'm explaining to my clients that each of my team have been on all the courses, we've been on the webinars. It's not just one we've been on, it's several, because our knowledge is, we want it complete so that when we're acting and with our systems and procedures are all set up, so that come the 1st of May, we know exactly where we're going with everything. And it's that reassurance that you've got to give to your client. Don't need to tell them the ins and outs of what it is and how it is you're going to do it. That's for you to do on their behalf. But it's that reassurance that they need.
Lovely. Coming back to working on your business,
Yep. My
rather
favourite topic. Yes.
um, what suggestions would you give to people to make the time to work on their business rather than be in the business permanently?
I'll give you the result of, I think it was probably about 3 years ago where I consciously decided that I wasn't going to work day to day in my business on any one department, although I do a little bit on commercial, on the bigger stuff on commercial, perhaps. But my team is coming in commercial, and bit by bit, I'm doing less and less because they're coming on and their knowledge is growing, all the rest of it. So I consciously make a decision to come out of the day-to-day of the business. So what am I doing with myself? Well, where's my value to my company? And the answer is in bringing in ideal clients to each of our departments. And you've got to define what your ideal client is. For me, an ideal client is someone who's going to be sending us constant instruction. So I'll take a couple of my departments, for example, commercial. One of my ideal clients is an industrial estate owner, one industrial estate. I push my way to get one instruction from that person, do a great job, value. And guess what? I get every single one of those industrial estate units coming on my way in the future when they come free. That's an ideal client for commercial. An ideal client on sales would be solicitors, working closely with solicitors, and you get their probate and doing a great job for them. That's something where repeat order business, that's an ideal client. On lettings, obviously, it's portfolio owners. Auctions are investors that also turn stuff around. So it's repeat order business. These are the sort of guys that I deal with, having taken myself out of my business, and I work on all the time. I've got a whiteboard. You can't see it. It's in my other office. And it's my target list of either agencies that I know are going to be retiring soon, or only landlords that I know are going to be wanting management when it gets too hard for them to do, post renters' rights. And we've had a few of those come in as well. And every industrial estate in my area I've got that's owned by one person, we've got the agency on it. But it's direct approach each time and just pushing your way in and not being pushy, doing it in a nice way, because pushy doesn't work. That's very 1980s, and you can't do that anymore. Quite right as well. It's about doing it in the right way, in the soft approach. I'm doing that all the time, and when I'm doing that whiteboard, it's almost like a set of goals where I'm going to achieve half this ball by the end of the year, and I do, because I'm working on the business, not in it, and bringing that business into each of my departments.
I love that. Thank you. You also said, coming back to knowledge, about there's plenty of books out there. There's plenty of audio books out there as well, videos. Any recommendations?
Yeah, apart from mine, which is this agent who was
Oh, we're
like,
coming
as
to
you
that. We're
mentioned.
coming
Oh,
to
sorry. So,
that.
they ask you answer is probably one of the best books. Entrepreneur Circle used to belong to that.
Marcus
Um,
Sheridan.
yeah, Marcus Sheridan. And the reason why I say Marcus Sheridan is that as Entrepreneur Circle, that group of mastermind group that I belong to, we all left the Entrepreneur Circle because we outgrew it. Because the knowledge that was coming around, the stuff they were teaching, and stuff that you'd already learned before. However, we have a quarterly meeting, a lunch, each of us, and we still say to this day the best business book that are out there. Because part of Entrepreneur Circle is, you bandy around business books. I'll buy one, I'll give it to you, Stephen. The one you bought, you'll give to me. We read or whatever. They Ask You Answer is the best book out there, and it's all about putting yourself out there as expert in your field, answering all the questions that potential buyers want to know the answers to. And guess what? When you give that to them free, they come back to you as expert in your field. And it's as simple as that, really.
Okay, you've talked a lot about Propertymark.
I have, yes.
What are the benefits of agents being a Propertymark member?
It's interesting because at the Kent regional meeting of Propertymark this year, I did a quick stand-up presentation because the Mary Lou, who's the president, unfortunately, it's the one she couldn't make, so I had to fill in.
Oh,
But more than happy. I mean, Mary Lou's fantastic, but I filled in for her. But one of the things that I was talking to someone from Canterbury, funny enough, and that Canterbury person was saying, I'm a one person. Oh, sorry, she had one employee, so two people in the business, very small business. And she said all of the smaller businesses out there, in the last few years, they've gone under, they've gone out of existence. And I said, were any of them Propertymark? And she went, no. And I said, that's interesting, isn't it? So when I stood up and spoke, I said, what's the value in Propertymark? Whatever part of Propertymark is your discipline, whether it's multidiscipline, whether it's just one, like letting sales, whatever. And it's about the knowledge again that you get from Propertymark and doing the exam, and also having that professional body of membership. Things like legislative changes, you need to keep ahead of them. And to smooth that journey, it's about someone like Propertymark giving you all that information up front, and helping you along the way, assisting you along the way. It's really giving you the heads up, and you need the heads up in order to get your systems and procedures in place before changes happen.
100%. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times about some book, The Estate Agents Who Was Loved, The
Did
Power
I?
of Purpose, Culture and Value. I think so. I think so. What made you decide to write it and what's it about? And more importantly, where can people buy it?
They can buy it on Amazon, is the first thing to say. It's available in hardback, softback. There is an audio book that's going to be coming out soon, but that's been a bit delayed because they wanted to use my voice, and it's not quite worked out as quickly as we thought. So, but anyway, that's a technical issue, and so that'll be out soon as well. Why did I write the book? I'm 59 years old, and I say coming towards the end of my career. I did say to my wife the other day, my goal is to be the first 100-year-old estate agent in the country. But anyway, I might only be working 1 hour a week by then. But um, it's about giving back as much as anything. I also teach commercial agents for Propertymark in the commercial course. I teach two of the three. And all of that is really about giving back. I wouldn't do it for the money. It's not about that because it doesn't pay that well. It's a whole day of my time, which I could probably be using it on better things. But it's very much about, I feel personally, I've been very, very lucky to have landed in this industry. I did it by accident, in a sense. I hadn't planned ever to be an estate agent. And so I fell into the industry by chance, found out that I loved it. And there's so many people in the industry that will tell you this story as well. And I just feel very blessed that I've had a great career that served me really, really well. And it's very much that case of giving back. I remember doing the commercial course with another guy called Michael Hare, who's from Harrogate, and he did some great courses, and he really pushed me on as a mentor. He won't even know this, but he was very much a mentor to me. And it's about, the people that make a difference in your lives, whatever it is, in terms of enthusiasm as much as anything else as well. You can probably tell I'm quite enthusiastic about the industry per se, but I do feel I'm very blessed. So the book is really about giving back and laying it down in print exactly what I've learned over 32 years, and a lot of those. Phil Spencer thankfully did the foreword, which really helped. But I believe he did read it as well, believe it or not, because he was asking me questions on it. So I was blown away by that as well. But he said, a lot of these things are age-old lessons that we forget. But in your book, you're just reiterating a lot of those things. And the example I gave earlier, what's your ideal customer? It's about thinking about your ideal customer. It's about setting your goals. And if you set a goal, you're more likely to achieve it, as opposed to if you don't look at that. Systems, procedures in your company. But I think the three key elements are purpose. You've got to have a purpose as a company, and set out your purpose. And in the 80s and 90s, they were known as mission statements, and it sounds really old hat and everything else. But actually, if your whole firm knows the purpose that you're setting out and what you're looking to achieve, you're more likely to achieve it, because everyone's pulling in the same direction because they know what the purpose is. So that's one of the chapters in there. The other chapter is all about culture. And if you've got the right positive culture and the right people working for you, all pulling in the same direction because your purpose is there, your day-to-day is so much more enjoyable for that as well. So I always wanted, if I was going to be an employer, I always wanted to be an employer that when I was an employee, it was the sort of company I wanted to work for. So we constantly look at ways and means of improving that, and we're never going to be complacent. That's a constantly changing thing that we need to evolve, and making our firm as good a firm as possible to work for. So that's just part of being a businessman anyway, in reality, isn't it?
100%. Well, so if you're watching, listening, please, there's loads of gold that you've already shared on this podcast. I'm sure there's even more gold and value
There is.
and knowledge,
I've,
which is
I've,
going to.
I've got Mickey S's 20 top tips. That's the last chapter. So there you go. And I've not even touched on that yet, Steve.
Okay, go on. Give us your number three top tip then. I won't ask for your number one.
Okay, my number three top tip, whatever that'll be, do nothing. There's a whole chapter about when you need to do nothing. There's so many times when people want to solve something and everything, and sometimes you need to learn and have that tool in your back armor to do nothing. And sometimes that really pays off in certain circumstances where you do nothing and it resolves itself.
Actually, that's a really good point, because I was at ARIC, the Australian Real Estate Conference, I
Yeah,
think coming up to 3 years ago, and Ryan Serhant was there,
yeah,
and he said, "What's one bit of advice that you can give?" And he said, "If there's a real big challenge or a real big problem, ask yourself a question: what will happen in 6 months' time? If it's still there, is it a problem or not?" Uh,
great
if
advice.
if
Great
it,
advice.
if it, if it's going to be a problem, then maybe deal with it. If it's not, then don't even worry about it. Which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
So thank you so much for your time. I'm really grateful, as I'm sure the audience and the listeners will be. If
it's,
people want
it's
to get hold of you,
it's been a pleasure, Stephen. But if there are any Property Mark, NAA, NAVA, or NAA commercial guys out there, I am up for re-election in June to the
okay,
board. So you can only serve for 4 years, then you have to go up for re-election. You can only serve 2 terms maximum. So I'm up for re-election for my second term.
okay, I'm going to give you a plug now. Okay,
Yep, yep.
so why should you be re-elected?
The key thing that I've done, I think it's about the two things that I've really achieved. One was to ensure that there was a move towards perhaps thinking about paying member elected directors, and I was dead against it. I'd done it voluntarily, and I said you're going to get people standing for the wrong reasons if there's money involved. And so it's still a voluntary position, and that's a key thing. And I was very much a lone voice at one point on that, and I'm thankfully, everyone came to the right decision on that. Gosh, what's the second? I was going to say another one as well. And it's gone from my mind. What was the other thing that I did that was very much sort of on my? I can't remember. I negotiated a lease for Property Mark on their offices in London and got a fantastic deal, 12 months rent-free period. Happy days. So there you go. That's very small.
You should be a commercial agent as well.
I should be. I should.
So, okay, so if you're a Property Mark member and you're
Yeah.
looking to vote, there you go. You've got one of your candidates here, and he's plugged it all for you. So, I wish you the best of luck for that. If people do want to get hold of you as well, Michael, how do they do that, please?
Anyone can email me anytime, and email is always the best way because of if I'm out of the client, I'm out of office. It's always a difficult way to get hold of us. But Michael at sealeys.co.uk, that's my company address. So Sealeys is Sealeys. So Michael at sealeys.co.uk, or Michael Sears at propertymark.co.uk if you're a Property Mark member. So either of those things. Anyone wants to know anything at all, particularly on commercial lending, learning and things like that. Obviously, I run the courses on that, but any other thing, happy to take emails. And emails is always the best thing because you can get back to them in time, whereas a phone call isn't always convenient, as we know.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody watching the latest edition. Please like it, share it, send it round to everybody. So much value here. Michael, I wish you best of luck
Thank
in
you,
that.
Stephen.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. Until the next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.